Welcome back. Previously, we prepared a map in UDK for our menu to sit inside, then we went through the process of creating the visual elements of the menu in Flash, and now we're going to get to the coding side of things. To some people, code is kind of a scary word, but I hope to alleviate some of your concerns because it's really never been easier to do what we're about to do. Even just a few years ago, this would have required a lot more coding and Unreal script knowledge, but for this project we're not going to touch a single line of Unreal script, we're not going to compile anything. Before we get the action script in place on our button and cursor, let's do a quick test of our menu scene inside UDK, just to confirm that it shows up as you want it to. First, we have to prepare any raster images that might be included in our Flash document, such as our logo if we've made one, for import into Unreal if we want to avoid potential issues. You can skip this step, but just to warn you, some of the potential problems that can occur if you do include image distortion, ugly compression artifacts, difficulty to update and keep track of our assets, duplicates in the UDK content browser, and random names being assigned to the images. And I would think that you would want to avoid those things, so to fix this, go up here where you see Properties and Library, hit Library, and we want to find the source asset for our logo, in this case being Halcyon logo PNG. Hit Properties, and the first thing that we want to do is delete the extension from the file name. Check Allow Smoothing so that if you resize your image it doesn't end up all jagged looking. And we don't want any image compression, so change that from JPEG to lossless PNG. And down here we want to export for ActionScript, and both these should be checked. And we need to change our linkage identifier to just the name of the file without the extension on the end. This is how UDK editor will recognize it, and it cannot recognize periods. So we're done with the properties, go ahead and hit OK. Before we export, we want to save our document, and we want to save it in a sensible location. If we don't save first and we try and publish, it'll just publish it to a temp folder, which will get in the way of our next step. So after saving it, go back to File, and hit Publish. And when we publish, it'll save an SWF version with the same name as our FLA document. So one last step before we go into the UDK, just to ensure that our image pipeline will be seamless, and if you don't use a raster image you can skip. Here's the importance of this. By default, Unreal will take the raster image from inside the Shockwave Flash, but doing this step will make it use the source images on your hard drive. And for this to work, we need to have a subfolder inside the same folder as our SWF file, and with the same name, without the extension of course. And you need to copy your source image into that folder. Switch back to the Unreal Development Kit, and from the top we can choose Open Content Browser. And in the content browser we want to go down to File, Import, and import our Shockwave Flash file. If you can't see it, make sure that SWF is the chosen format. Make a new package for your menu. Change the item name if you wish, and hit OK. And if everything works out, you should have a properly named raster image from your source and your Scaleform GFX converted SWF movie. And if it gives you errors, that either means that you got the linkage identifier wrong in the previous step, or you skipped it altogether. Go ahead and save out your package, and you want to save it into the game's content folder so that your map can find the resources. And I already had a package set up, but when you save, it'll bring up a dialog and you can choose the folder. You can see the file is in the power of 2 dimensions that we set up in our previous video, and from the thumb we can see there's no warping. That's how we like it. Now you want to make sure your Shockwave Flash movie is selected in the content browser. Go up and hit Kismet. And the first thing that we want to do in Kismet is go to our OpenGFX movie node, go down to Movie, and hit Use Selected Object in Content Browser. And we can already go ahead and test this out. And amazingly enough, our menu appears. But right off the bat, we can see that there's a small problem here. I'm not even talking about the fact that the heads-up display appears. We'll fix that later. I'm talking about the fact that by default, UDK applies gamma correction to our movie. And it looks much too bright, so to fix that, we'll uncheck gamma correction. And now, let's try again. So that's fixed. Obviously though, we can't do anything with this yet, so let's go back into Flash and start working on our action script. So save that out, and let's reopen Flash. Back in Flash, our first task is to get our mouse cursor working, and we'll be accomplishing this with a few simple lines of action script attached to it. So first make sure that the layer with the cursor on it is unlocked, and then we can click it, right click, and go down to Actions, and this will bring up our action script editor. Now we'll begin typing the code that we need, and I'll explain to you in just a moment what it does. You can see that Flash Action Script Editor brings up a whole bunch of little helpers, and it does this with good intentions. Just to make sure that we don't make any mistakes in our coding. And you can see that sometimes it pops up when you don't want it to. That can be kind of annoying, but usually it's only when you're being sloppy or feeling hurried because you're making a tutorial with time constraints. But anyway, that's all the code that we need for the mouse cursor to work. So we can go ahead and test. And a quicker way to test our movie is to use Control-Enter. So the cursor is definitely following the mouse. And there's a slight problem here. The cursor is the same color as the nav over, but we can fix that later. What this very simple script does is tells our cursor movie clip's registration point x and y coordinates to equal the current coordinates of where our mouse is in the root timeline. The registration point, meaning the tip of the cursor, can be set when you create your movie clip. Now we want to do the script for the button, and here's where the helper context menus can actually come in handy. We want to say to the button, okay, when I press you, you're gonna do this. Okay, so unlock the button layer, and left click it. And since the script editor is still open, we can start immediately. We'll begin by using the helpers under the movie clip control, find the one called on, double click it, and from the input options choose press. So when the button is pressed, we want to tell Unreal to listen for an FS command called load map in all lowercase letters. And I've got some news for you, we're done with the action script. Save your document, and then you want to republish it so that the action script is included in the SWF file. Back in Unreal Ed, make sure that your content browser is open to your package, and right-click your SWF movie, re-import, and save it. We'll go into Kismet, and first in OpenGFX Movie, we'll scroll down to Take Focus. We want to make sure that that's set so that it will accept our input. And the next thing that we need is an FS command event. And that's under GFX UI. And it needs to have the same name as our FS command that we wrote in Flash, which is load map, lowercase, no quotations. Under movie, with our SWF still highlighted in the content browser, select Use Selected Object in Content Browser. Then scroll down and make sure that player only is not checked. We do not want that to be set. So in the FS command node, here's the event load map. We need to tell it how to do so. First, make sure that the map exists. We'll use dmDeck here. We need to add a console command action and add it to the output of the FS command. Like so. And in the console command, we need to add a command and type open dmDeck with no quotes and hit enter. Actually, I didn't see that we had a slot, so if you have an extra, you can delete it. Now we also need to tell Unreal who to open the map for. So go to new variable, select player, and it can be set to all players, but it doesn't have to be, as long as the player index is set to 0. So hook the target of console command up to player 0. Now the exciting moment of truth. But first make sure you save, and then we need to test this in-game to see if it works because the Pi editor won't let us load other maps. Since we're running out of time, I've already gone into the game and I've typed our console command for opening our map. I know it's a funky looking menu, but it's not going to stay that way. Let's test it. And it works. If yours works too, I offer my congratulations. If not, go back and see what you missed. Now obviously there are many things that we want to do to improve on this. Certainly among them clearing away the HUD and the player. And next time we'll be showing you how to do that and all the things that we can do to make our menu fancier. Thanks to Epic Games and the Scaleform Corporation. And thanks to you, my friend, for watching.